We were done preparing the love. I
Oh
was
yeah.
I was preparing the love. I was going like, oh, preparing the love. And I don't know what sort of visual we should make for that, but I was just preparing the love.
Awesome. What's up, brother?
We're preparing the love here. I'm just telling people on Facebook that they should come join us on YouTube Live as we've
Yes.
got an incredible guest this evening. I'm so excited.
Promote. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put up the new branding.
Oh, the
So it's amazing.
conversation continues.
Yeah, it's amazing how things evolve. I mean, love as law, that is definitely the basis of what we're doing and what we have done with the universal laws. But everything changes, it evolves, and I am super pumped about how this is evolving.
Yeah, our conversation here continues, and this is, evolving really naturally. Last week, we spoke about a really cool artist who paints with light named Brian. I don't want to get his last name right. Lar?
Lar, yeah,
Brian Lar.
Brian Lar.
And we reached out to him and we sent him the clip, and he loved the show and he wanted to come on and chat with us. So I'm really excited to pick his brain because one of the main reasons why I really liked him was his cards are very informational. They've
Oh
got a
yeah,
lot of information packed into them, and I really want to ask him some questions for him to enlighten, why these pieces of information are so important and significant while using tarot. I think this man
totally.
has a lot of information for
Oh
my brain,
yeah.
and so I'm going to do a little less talking than I usually do this evening as I pull
But
in.
we'll see. We'll see.
All right, we'll see. I'm going to do my best, but
But
before we move into that, I just want to
yeah,
say. Just a couple things. One, with that conversation continuing, it's been really nice. Me and Michael have been continuing to talk and figure things out, and our virtual chip jar has been going, and people have been helping us to get some of our other little productions in line. And me and my great buddy James McDaniel, who I worked with on Haunted Live, he's a major fun conspiracy alien enthusiast, Bigfoot enthusiast, and comic fan. And me and him are two peas in a pod. But when we met working on Haunted Live, we were like, let's be friends. And we've been trying to figure out how to do something. And then when this was going so good, I was like, hey, I should reach out to James and do something with him. So we're talking about doing our own kind of coast to coast, talking about just fun stuff, sightings of Bigfoot and fairies and
awesome.
giants and dinosaurs. And, I love that stuff,
I'm
and
excited
multi
about it. Yeah,
dimensions and the Mandela effect. And there's so many fun things to talk about. And,
totally.
really that's where we want to focus our conversation. There's lesser fun things to talk about, but we're really going to try to focus on the stuff
Lesser
that,
fun things. Yeah.
yeah, we're going to try to focus on the stuff that's really enjoyable and fun to think about. I'm a fantasy writer because I wanted to think of more, and when I started to realize that there was possibly more, and there's just so many people who are having these individual experiences, and that's what we're hoping to focus, to be able to get people who've had interesting experiences come on the show and talk about them, ayahuasca experiences, and various experiences while off in the Himalayas and whatever else, and alien experiences.
Abduction and yeah, whatever.
Yeah, to hear it from the
Awesome.
horse's mouth is really the thing, I think. And
Cool.
so it's really cool. And we just started talking to Michael because James was like, man, I love all your graphics and stuff. I was like, yeah, I got my ace in the hole, Michael Zinn, producer extraordinaire.
Yeah. You know
So
what? I love. I was actually on a set today at an amazing place called the Chocolate Works in it's in Plainview, Syosset, and they've got a live
join us
studio there.
live. I mean, YouTube Live. Peace.
What's that?
I'm just telling them to join us on YouTube Live.
Oh, well, you're saying it into the microphone.
I turned it off. I'm sorry. I should. Idiot.
It's all
Idiot.
good.
What a jerk.
It's all good. Anyway, so my point is the technology to do this kind of stuff is amazing, and really like what's happening so fast with different ideas that we've put out there. All of a sudden now we can put them together. And so, like today with this guy Brian, I had been seeing him on Facebook and seeing his work. We followed a similar artist that we both enjoyed, and I was just like, why don't I reach out to him? And again, back to the conversation continues, where it came from before is what we're talking about: intention and choice, and living your life the way you want to do it, and kind of manifesting your own reality.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, like it's happening.
It
and
is happening.
great.
And usually at the beginning of the show we talk about, our weeks, and we're going to forgo a little bit of that right now to get with our guests. But I think it's appropriate that I should talk about something kind of interesting that I'm doing and did, this week, because it's very apropos for Brian being here,
Let's
which
do it.
is I've been I've been doing angel card readings and occasionally tarot card readings for my friends and family for a very long time now, and then more and more for friends of friends. People were like, "Would you do for my friend?" So I've been on the phone with strangers, all the time now for the past like couple years, where it's like I'm reading friends because to say I'm good at it is a misnomer, because
That's
you're
kind of
not.
how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not doing anything. You're just, getting out of the way so that the energy, the information can come. But I'm good at getting out of the way, for lack of a better word. And I finally was sort of guided to put it into more of a professional practice. And I put myself out to this spiritual shop over here, and I did a reading for them, and I felt really good about it. I was talking to them for like an hour afterwards, and then I left, and I didn't hear from them for a couple of weeks, and I was kind of feeling like, was I a little overconfident? Maybe I didn't do a good job,
Mhm.
And I reached out to them as a follow up, kind of timidly, just like, I'd love to get any feedback, or let me know, whatever. And they were like, "Yeah, you want to start, reading 1 day a week out of our shop?"
Wow.
So I'm gonna be reading out of their Fridays. Yeah, it's really nice, and for me, it's just
Universe
good
is really,
practice. It's amazing,
yeah, the
and
universe is putting all this stuff out there, and I think you and I both are like in that flow right now and feeling that flow. And I think,
yes,
and part of that flow is knowing that the flow goes in all directions. You know what I mean? So it's
exactly,
like
yeah,
when things are going good, we get to really enjoy and appreciate it. I think
yeah.
gratitude comes
And
into play.
for me, I have a brand new tarot deck. I mean, it's a different deck. It's the Akashic Tarot deck. But I've been kind of freshly learning tarot based off of some of the information that I gave out during the Universal Laws class.
Mhm.
Just some of the basic tenets of tarot's number wise, and like what it was, and how it applied to some of the Universal Law stuff. So I'm really looking forward to picking Brian's brain, and
Yeah.
let's get him in here.
Cool, cool, cool. So I'm gonna just kind of give him a little bit of an introduction. We started talking about his artwork last week. We brought it up on screen, and Jesse was just like, "Whoa, look at this!" So I was like, "All right, something sparked." And again, that's the way the universe works. This sparks that. This sparks that. It's all about connection. So Brian is a great photographer artist that I followed, and I had been thinking about doing tarot cards with my artwork. And he's like, "Oh, well, you know what? I did that." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I took a look at what he did, and oh my God, I was just blown away. So this guy, I'm just so glad we connected. I can't even say enough about him. I'm going to bring him on, and you guys will see for yourself. Here he comes. And there he is. Brian, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on, you guys. I really enjoyed the shows last week, and I've watched a couple of other ones. I'm on subscribe.
Thank
Awesome.
you very
Yeah,
much. Appreciate
yeah,
that. We
and
appreciate it.
you guys just have a really great chemistry, and the information you're talking about, and the the flow of the path you're on right now is really in sync with my own. So,
Well,
thanks.
we appreciate that so much, Brian. It means so much coming from somebody like you. And i- i- right now, the biggest thing within this moment for me as a spiritual teacher is that we've all we don't seem to realize that our nature is to be polarized, and
Yeah.
therefore we really need to learn how to forgive, because we're ultimately just hurting ourselves. And listening to the boiling water and the freezing water about how we should do our day to day isn't the greatest place to be coming from. We want to go to the center and be speaking from the center. And I think so many of the people in the middle, we're a little meek sometimes, because we don't know how to have these difficult conversations. And and it's very easy to get activated in the atmosphere that we're in. So we've been really just trying to open up a nice, reasonable, nuanced conversation, based in real spiritual thought and understanding, and a realization of our oneness. And I think there's a lot for the tarot to teach us. And I totally want to break down your cards now. Like, I haven't been able to get these in my hands, but I got to see them last week. And you have a ton of informational pieces around the
I
deck.
do.
Can you
Right.
tell us?
You know what? Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
While
here. Can you want to?
I'm going to find it and I'll bring it up.
So, can you tell us, each of the individual categories of information you have on the cards and why it's so important, for like the Hebrew letters and things like that?
Well, I read for about 25 years before I started trying to do my own deck. And at that point, I've been really fascinated with the multiplicity of divination systems from all over the world and all
Yeah,
kinds of different
a lot of cool ones.
currents. And so I had started with numerology and with rune stones. And then I got into geomancy and spent some time in some of the Afro-Cuban tribal scenarios, got very deeply into that. So after I had kind of found the path I'm on now, about 3 or 4 years into that, my teacher says, why don't you do your own tarot deck? It's about time. And I'm like, it was really overwhelming to think about doing the whole tarot deck at the beginning. It's just so deep and so many different directions for it to go.
Seems
And
like a big responsibility too. Like, ooh, I got to get it right.
well, that was something I sort of circumvented because I made it. I said, okay, well, first of all, I wouldn't commit to doing it, and my teacher like snuck it in on me. He said, just do one card. Yeah, just do one card. So I played around with a lot of different execution. Of course, I picked the Magus card, and I played around with a lot of different executions to that. And as I started getting closer and closer to something I was really happy with, it I got the bug and it really hooked me. So when I finally like landed on the smoke, I'd been doing that smoke thing for years. I
It's so
love doing
beautiful.
it. I applied it to that, and it was just perfect. It's
Oh,
exactly
you
the
know
way
what?
I
Yeah,
wanted.
let me just bust in here and actually instead of sharing this,
Austin, all respect to you. I'm getting my notebook because I'm going to take notes.
yeah,
Oh no!
yeah. So I'm just going to kind of back up and give people a little bit of background of you. You had sent me a whole bunch of stuff today. So hold on one second. Let me bring some of that up. I have some of your artwork. So and you can maybe just explain what it is that you do. I know you said this was one of your favorites.
Oh, this is the light painting. The light painting. I started as a painter, an oil painter, and an illustrator, watercolor kind of stuff, and then I got into photography. So I brought that painterly kind of eye to that, and a photography eye to the illustration. But they were really separate things. And when I got into the light painting scenario, it was actually creating forms with light instead of pigment. And on my own personal journey, one of the really important things has been to learn to see my own and other people's auras and their light fields, and
Ooh, I want to
there's
ask you about that
just a
after we talk about the tarot.
no worries. And there's just a ton of information that can be gotten there. And in reality, your light body and your energy body is way more than half of what you actually are. So having having connection to both of those things gives you're kind of dealing with your whole being instead of just parts of your being, and learning to see that
Amber's right.
also.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much. So once you learn to see that, you also, as a bonus feature, you can see other energies around too, and different flows of stuff, and depending on what frequency you're looking at, there's all kinds of different things to see, and the light painting. Oh yeah, like that. I see energy that looks close to that, and having a voice now to try to, communicate what I'm personally seeing inside is just ecstasy in so many ways, and it's just
I want to
it's
lick your artwork.
Me too.
I want to lick your artwork, Brian. I bet you never heard that before.
That's a first. Thank you very
wonderful.
much. So the the light painting has just really evolved into a huge that.
Yeah, that was Brian did this amazing comic book, and it's so beautiful. The tragedy of it is you just want to sit and stare at every piece for like an hour, not follow a story.
That's all right. That's okay.
There's so much. They have so much energy, and that's really
I'm like trying to read it. I'm like, oh man, I need hours to sit here and look at all these pieces, and some of them are small.
Right.
Well, that's true, but hopefully somebody that gets it will be able to go back to it time and again and see different stuff. That's the thing I love about the tarot executions is depending on your emotional content at the time you look at the cards, where you're at energetically. Every single time, I did that deck 8 years ago. And curiously, it started on the winter solstice, and I finished up on the spring equinox, like to the day.
Oh, wow.
So every time at this point, I have my decks right here. At this point, it's like I've looked at them tens of thousands of times, and I'm still seeing new things. And those shapes, like, seem to kind of invite you in and
they do
form your own thing
because they're sacred geometric. You've got the smoke that's working in natural forms with the universe, and then you're amplifying those patternings by splitting them and doubling them and stuff. So it really is, it just brings out the natural patterns in life.
And before I shot each card, I really did a deep channel to the archetype of that card and found incense that was appropriate to that particular card.
Oh, yeah.
So each one of those was a different, some of them were similar, but a lot of them were really different. It wasn't even the same incense for each
different
card.
Qualities, right?
Yes, exactly. And then once I decided to do the whole deck, I didn't want to do a tarot deck. There's so many of them out there, and I wanted to do something really different. And my intent was not to produce something to sell and get published. It was to, all right, if I'm going to sit down and do this, and what am I going to make the Cadillac of tarot decks for my readings, and bring to clients that I read for. Gotcha. So that was really the intent of that. So each of those things, the geometry, the musical sequences, the planetary squares that you can construct sigils from, all of those things were things that I had already had in my toolbox and thought, wow, this is perfect here. So geometry, the Ifa, Magio Dews, those things all, the runes, the Elder Rune, Futhark, all of those relate to 16. So those were perfect to attach.
They relate to 16? I was talking about 16 last week.
Yeah, that's a really important number. So those connect to the court cards. All the court cards are 16 of those. So once you do a regular layout, whatever layout you prefer using, and you still want a little auxiliary information, you can grab the court cards and do a little geomancy reading. You can do a little rune cast, whatever. Great. So you can bring all these different dimensions to it. And those musical sequences are the sequence of the name of the card.
I wanted to talk about this. I've got your website up right now. And let me actually put that up down at the bottom of there's a few websites here you can check out Brian's stuff. his Facebook page and his websites. But this is the Wizard of Odd, where he sells the tarot decks. And this is just kind of like, you had sent me, Brian, an actual manual. That, how many pages is that thing? Like hundreds of pages.
Well, the tarot the one for the angel deck, which was the second deck I did. There are 3 of them in a set.
Okay.
The second one I did was the angel deck. You know, the first one I made a mistake of waiting in between time of, like, instead of getting right on the manual, which is really more work than the deck actually. Instead of getting on that, I let time go by, and like I got on to other stuff, and I'm on to other things, and I'm like, and it's been really hard to like get that finished up. I did that beginning section of it that I sent to you so that someone that got the deck could really have an idea of what all those things meant, and little starters. And if you're interested in that, you can go dig more and have a good foundation.
Yeah, Brian, would you mind if I asked you some specific questions?
Sure.
So here, if you could just go up a little bit. So the elemental symbols.
Yes.
Are we working with the 4 elements, or we also have ether in there? How are the cards broken up?
Ether is the combo of all of those.
Yeah.
So wands are fire, cups are water and emotions. Air are the swords and mental things, and then earth is the manifestation part of it. And in my readings, I do 4 columns that are each relate to elements, and I lay out 3 or 4 cards in each one of those columns, which kind of like defines what the energy is, how everybody's feeling about it, what the plans and things are being thought about. And if all of that energy flow is left untouched and uninterrupted, this is the most likely outcome of that.
This is like the most beautiful deck for anybody, but what a great deck to learn with. I mean, it's really incredible what you've done here.
Brian,
can you go down a little further too? So
you should send Jesse the manual, Brian. He would definitely dig it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You would love it, since you do angel cards too. You know, the angel deck is like
angel cards are what I've been using for most of my reading time. But I just started with the tarot. I always viewed the tarot as a little darker in like the way people viewed them.
Yeah,
and people tend to, I think, read their own readings. Like they get involved when they see different cards. So I like the angel card readings because people could never really tell what was going on to a certain degree.
That's true. You know, the tarot, I picked that to do first because that had a really traditional structure that I could latch onto. The angel deck was, there's a Hebrew system of angels that are the angelic names of God. And there's 72 of those called the Shem HaMephorish. So I took that system and then applied my own divination system with that. So that's kind of a half and half. And the last deck is kind of like a deck of my own cosmology from beginning to end. So it's been a real journey in so many ways.
So
yeah.
How do the elementals flow with the Master Arcana? Is it flow in a pattern of 4?
It does not. No.
Oh, okay.
And some of the major arcana aren't attached.
Well, I see some of the cards don't all have all that information. See, like
I
want to get my hands on these damn cards so that because I feel like there's just so much to learn from looking at them. I'm like every preview. I'm like,
do you know about the Fool's Journey?
Do I know about the Fool's Journey?
Well, that was one of the coolest things I discovered about the tarot deck, is that the first 22 cards in the major arcana, first of all, the major arcana really relate to universal issues, and the minor arcana are kind of like your daily day-to-day stuff. And those first 22 cards are in order a path of initiation, where you start off with the Fool, and the whole gig about the Fool is this like just naive, like wonder of the world, and setting off on this new path, not really know what that is.
Hold on 1 second, Brian. I think our connection for you is a little
as it progresses through the wow, dude.
1 second, Brian. Our connection
We
for you is a
lost it
little.
for a
As it
second, yeah.
progresses through
There we go.
yeah, hold on there. Is that better?
Yeah, no, we got you back now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're back.
Okay. So as you progress through, so the first person the fool meets is the Magus, and the Magus in touch with his elemental abilities and his ability to access his occult powers. And then the priestess, she meets the priestess, and those are the secrets of the tarot and his receptive abilities, and on through each card. So by the time the fool reaches the universe, he's learned, he's like become. It now has the tools to now go out into the universe and start over at the Fool and evolve again. And it's
Yeah,
really
and I mean, it's really the
beautiful
hero's journey,
story.
right?
That's crazy.
You're exactly right. Well,
Yeah.
it's the hero's journey that each one of us are on.
Yeah.
Right. So, Brian, I don't know if you can see the comments
I
when
can.
I stick them in.
Oh,
you
no,
can.
I can't.
Okay. So, I'm curious as to what you have to say about this, because I know we were talking earlier today about mysticism, and you were kind of really passionate about it, and I'm super excited to like absorb some of that from you. But Angela says, I've had tarot completely shut down on me, even had some fly off my table. So I'm just curious
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cards will move once the energy. See, that's the thing, the whole gig about the path that I'm on now is totally about energy. And the first part of that is realizing your own energy and being able to actually use that with intent and move it and gather it. You heal things, do projective effects where you're moving things. There are so many things that are possible. You see a lot of the kung fu movies and things like that, but actually that's a different form of that. But it's the same thing. It's accessing the part of God that's in every single one of us.
Yeah, I really have been recommending Qigong like mad to people, because I had started doing it for a moment and immediately just saw how relevant it was to all of our lives.
Makes a difference.
We're all these human batteries, and as soon as you start doing the Qigong, you kind of recognize, okay, yeah, I got all these systems, and they're all kind of divided up, and if I can get them awoken and get my energies crossing and all these different things that go a long way to bring your vitality back. For me, I was dealing with a lot of chronic pain, and working with energy, like I'm very much like you, except I don't see the energy. I just kind of feel it. I just feel and sense it, which makes it a lot harder. It's been a harder journey because it's very like I will always doubt myself because I kind of sense things, but it's very, very sort of a gentle thing for me. So
you could grow that though, Jesse.
Well, that's it. I'm working on that, and I want to ask you more about seeing things in a minute. But the first thing I really want to kind of ask you, as I see that kind of answer some of my questions as we're just looking at things, and I only have so much time with you, and I want your brain in my brain. So
I'm not sure about that, my brother.
how did you get on how did you get on this path specifically? How did you begin to, because I think for me, I was an atheist when I was young, and something like the tarot, I mean, literally I would like kick my own ass, my younger self, my atheist self, for doing tarot readings and angel card readings, and I would really I would beat the crap out of my younger self. But the problem is that I think people feel like, well, it's willy-nilly. It's nothing. You talk about your comic book, the skeptics who come calling, and I think most people who really want to do things at a high level, on some level, we're very skeptical. Some of us are naturally in tune to it, but I find that most of us who are creative and who want to be a part of the system, we're kind of more naturally inclined to like a natural creativity and spirituality, but sometimes we get hung up on the 3D. And I wondered, how did you go from being a normal person to going, hey, these tarot, like, I think this is really something here, and I want to pursue this and learn everything I can about it?
Well, I had some really crazy experiences when I was really young, and I started kind of on the journey with different divination things and crystals. I'm a crystal fanatic.
Oh yeah, I love crystals.
In my 20s, and then I got divorced when I was 30, and my dad died, a whole bunch, like life kind of blew up. So it was another one of those, which seems to be kind of like a 10-year cycle for me. So
7 years for me.
yeah, I got in a zone of really having some wonderful people show up that opened some doors for me and like got me on the path. And I studied for a long time. I got involved with a number of different groups. I sampled a lot of different things, but I just always had this calling inside that there was something else there. And I discovered this guy who I learned from now, and getting to him was like 5 years in the making. And I had just reached this point in my life where I was just like, is this all there is? This is just bogus, man. I am so ready to go. And I ate and drank myself into 400 pounds and blood sugar that was like at diabetic coma levels.
You were 400 pounds?
I was 400 pounds. Yeah, I lost 200 pounds.
I can't even imagine it looking at you right now.
It was really crazy. So the teacher I work with now happened to, out of the blue, give me a call. We had struck up a bit of a relationship, but we weren't really very close yet. And as I'm pulling into the emergency room, he like calls me on the phone. We start having this conversation. I tell him what's going on. He's like, "Oh, dude, why didn't you call me sooner? We could have helped you, man." So long story short, he makes a deal with me to lose 100 pounds, get my health back in order, and he would teach me a projective effect. I had to learn how to do that. So I was on, man. I was like, yeah, let's go. I couldn't get home fast enough to start walking, exercising. I changed my whole diet, started losing weight pretty fast. And then once that momentum happened, it was like, woohoo. And then, and I should tell you at the beginning of that, when he was going to help me. He's a very good healer, and he invited me over to the house, and we're going through this collection of energy, and he's picking up set points of mine that are like little software things in your energy field. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that, he says, "Now go over up in the kitchen now and stand up against the wall, and whatever you do, don't say anything." The room's kind of dimly lit, and there's a wine glass in the middle of the dining room table. And I take this penny over that I've been charging up the whole time. I put it in the wine glass, and he goes, now puts his hand to his lips. I'm shh. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what the hell am I going to see here, man? Okay. So I see him lean back, and in a few seconds, the room starts getting brighter, and I see this white kind of light happening from his solar plexus, and it's splashing up on his face like monster lighting. And I'm like going, whoa, all I want to do is go, holy shit. And it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and all of a sudden it goes out. And I see him still standing there, and he reaches out his right hand, and he's about 3 feet away from the table. And he focuses for a second, and the wine glass starts moving towards the edge of the table. And I'm like, no, I'm not seeing it. Where's the cable? Where's the magnet? I'm from Missouri, man. I'm from the Show Me State, man. I don't believe anything.
Show Me State.
And I lived in the city. I lived in the city all my life, man. I pride myself on street smarts. So I'm like trying to figure out what the gimmick is. And he pulls it right to the edge of the table, and it falls off and shatters on the floor, which was part of what needed to happen. But it was, and I'm
breaking
standing
glass.
there.
Very
yeah,
deal.
dude. So I like, oh my God. You know, the fact that he was able to reach a solid object and pull it across with the friction on the table, with the whole 9 yards, with just energy, was absolutely mind-blowing to me, because until that moment, I considered that impossible.
Right.
You know, or at least I had never seen it. And
I've never necessarily seen so much of the things that I know are possible now, you know, from my ayahuasca experiences and, you know, working with the plant spirits. I have come to understand, whoa, anything is on the table. And it's crazy, just we just have to open our minds, because we're living in
Exactly.
this collective consciousness, a consensus reality, and ultimately we've come to a terrible consensus, and that is that we're limited and we can't do anything. Awful idea. What a
Well,
terrible
that's
consensus.
that's programmed into us on purpose.
Exactly. And we just need to all collectively come to a new consensus, that we're good and we're powerful and we're one, and life is all right and everything's going to be okay. And there you go. Well, and really, literally, the three of us holding it right now. Life is good. Everything, like the more and more people who do share in that thing, it just grows and grows and amplifies. So
it's awesome. So you know what? Actually, this is a good place to cut in, because those people are actually also with us. They're our audience. They're watching us. So
I've had a lot of questions for
Brian.
I've had
a lot of comments coming up, and I've been trying to like not throw them up there because I know they distract you guys when you see them. So let's go back, and I know some of these we've talked about, Jesse. So I've got here. Have you got to your Akashic records, Jesse?
I had two incredible readings of my Akashic records. I forget what the lady's name is. She read my whole family before she read me, and after hearing every reading, I was convinced that she is absolutely connected to the source and bringing down information. And I had all sorts of very, very interesting. The second time I went around, first time I went around, it was basically to placate my family, to try to get them to understand some of the shit that I was going through that I felt like they couldn't understand, that I would say. And because I'm a bit of a weirdo, and some of my experience and what is right for me isn't always what's right for everybody. And then the second time I was just like, I want to know some really crazy things that I hadn't told anybody about. And boy, did it largely just kind of confirm them all. And I had things where I asked follow-up, more specific questions, and I got like answers not reversed but additional answers that were hidden, and found out that there's information in my Akashic record that if I don't ask specifically about the thing, they won't tell me anything. So all of a sudden my questions got very specific, and
Yes.
I know all sorts of interesting things about myself and past lives, but in a nice sanitized way. Every time I go on ayahuasca, Mother Ayahuasca has sort of kindly said that I don't really want to connect to my past lives, that a lot of them have been filled with a lot of what I've been doing to myself in this one prior to the past, few years. I mean, it's still working on it in so many ways, but making myself suffer, and really generally being an innocent person who wanted to do good, but finding myself lost in pain and sort of anger, and this was the life where I got to let that thing go, and that all the lives that I needed to maybe see were all things that I could process intellectually, and recognize that persecution is something that's been going on this planet for a long time. A lot of people, we come in, and we get activated at various parts of our lives. Maybe we have a group of friends, and one of them, kind of turns everybody against us, or at least we feel like that happens. And all of a sudden we're reminded that we've been persecuted before. And it's a common thing, people not being told that there's reincarnation going on this planet, and that people are being born with the energies that they didn't work out the last time in various capacities. And to be able to overcome these things, you don't necessarily have to sit there and have a past life regression where you were burnt at the stake as a witch. You can make peace with it in this life by recognizing that that has probably happened to you on some level. If you feel persecuted, if you feel that, start to try to make peace with that idea, and to confront that thing emotionally. And you don't necessarily have to deal with it in other levels. My mother, when she went and did ayahuasca, she really viscerally experienced some past life things with persecution, being burnt at the stake, being outside crying because she knew that her friends were inside being hurt, being tortured, being killed. These are the kind of traumas that so many people have buried within them, that have not been processed from other lives, and they come up in other ways. We're needy, or we're this, or we're that, or we're the other thing, that make us who we are, but this is all stuff for us to process in this life.
Right.
So, the Akashic record reading was really amazing for me, and I highly recommend if you know somebody who does that, who plays with the Akashic records. I've been learning and working with the Akashic records more and more, so hopefully one day I'll be able to speak to people from that place, because
Right.
it is the sum of all information.
And that is the short answer, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, that's the short answer. That's the best I could do, because you know what? It's some of these questions are so activating, and the important part of it is a larger thing. It's terrible when you speak in metaphor Tourette's.
Right. Metaphor Tourette's. So, Brian, let me ask you, what experience have you had with the Akashic records? Have you explored your own Akashic records? You know how to read Akashic records, probably.
One of the best things about like accessing your own energy and starting to activate different levels of that, and the school of teaching that I participate in now, it's as important to activate your clairvoyant abilities and your sight as it is to achieve, your
Mhm.
projective stuff. It's like having a really intense car, man. It's sitting in the garage and it's all gassed up and it's ready to go and the engine's cranked, but the window's completely dirty.
Mhm.
Or you can see out the window, but there's no gas.
Right.
So
Now-
it's good to have a balance of both of those things.
You
Go ahead.
you worked in TV, right? And as a producer and a creative.
I've been an advertising guy in one way, shape, or form for. I was worked in ad agencies for 15 years, and then went and directed commercials. And the last 10 years or so, I've really kind of been focusing on startup businesses and businesses that can't really afford an ad agency but need a whole creative department, which I can actually do at this point. I love all of sync, so I design and take it from branding.
We're going to talk to you after this interview is over
already
about some
happened.
things.
We've already.
But so when you went through this period where you said you got up to 400 pounds and then you lost all this weight, was that coming out of being an more traditional advertising world?
At that point, I was. I had just got through traveling around the country for 4 years in a tour bus, shooting motorcycle rallies and shows, and we did a bunch of stuff. I still work with a company called Native Films down here. We went. Learning to drive the bus was fun. But that was a crazy world, and I got to see so much stuff in the country, and it got really wearing after a while, and my magical practice was just not progressing at all. And I was just at a point where it was, I've lost all of my family. I just lost my brother about a month ago, so now I'm the last one standing. And I lost my dad about 30 years ago, and just March 2nd was 22 years that my mom passed.
Wow.
So most of my life I've been, kind of a solo act, and I'm pretty miserable at relationships, even though I intend to be good.
Oh, you're so wonderful, Brian. We got to hook you up with some cool chick somewhere.
Yeah, so I just want to bust in again. I know.
Sure.
Angela, who's a regular listener rather, she's talking about being a medium herself, which I've had discussions with her about, and she was making comments earlier, and I just wanted to, again, I don't love all of the complimentary stuff, but she was talking about the 3 auras that she was seeing on the screen. And she was getting some good energy, so that's
awesome.
That is great. We had a weird question here. Interesting. Have you had a chance to see the crystal skulls?
Yes. Not the actual.
I've never
not
seen
the actual ones in my hand, but I've seen a lot of close up. I was fortunate enough to see some of the scientific scans and things they did on it.
Cool.
And,
very cool.
Yeah.
We had talked about them this year for Christmas for like my whole family. As I realized, sort of the magic of the crystals. I was working at a crystal shop just to work with the stones a lot, and the idea that we can put a field into the crystal and it will hold. And one of the things I learned while working with psilocybin, years ago, was that if I died, all my hopes and aspirations for other people left with me, especially for those of like my friends who didn't have a real high thoughts about themselves. I had the thoughts about them being maestros. They didn't necessarily have that. So for Christmas, I gave all my friends stones and my family stones with all my highest thoughts of them, because I wanted them to exist, period, in case I died.
That's
And
so cool.
also, and also because I really do believe that the field that I've created within the stone will hold, and it is a field that they can grow into if they so choose, if it is to benefit them or whatever.
Have you ever seen any of the old footage of Dr. Emoto's water programming thing? Water is one of the greatest holder of programming. And that's what you do. That's one of the uses of the projective energy, being able to focus that and boil it down, is to be able to charge objects. The objects in and of themselves they have the potential for things, but you're not going to buy a rock from the crystal store and have it be ready to use. You need to clean it. You need to charge it. Your tarot decks, you charge it up really good with energy before you cut it and read it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's thought. You have to put conscious thought into these things.
It's about intent. That's one of the things I latched on from the last couple shows. It really is focused, energized intent.
Yes. Yeah. So I know there's going to be an answer to this one, of course, and seems kind of basic, but Neil is asking the number 333. Of course, we know that's significant.
I'll say that we talk about this in the polarity episode of our classes that we did, so you can go back and you can find that.
Oh, that's right.
From us. But I would love to hear what Brian has to say.
Well, 333 doesn't have any specific connection to me in the tarot, at least. Numerologically, it's a troika, it's a triple of the 3 energy, which is about creativity, and it's the first shape where there's balance and stability, so that number really is kind of crazy. In its creative potential,
not necessarily to tarot, but
yes, exactly. And it's kind of like the 369 Tesla sequence,
Right, of course.
And it breaks down to a 9. So if you want to look up the significance of the Master Arcana number 9, for a lot of my friends lately, I've been going, what's your favorite number? And then I just go to the Master Arcana and I find that, just like me, there are messages for them in their favorite numbers.
Always.
It's really kind of most of I haven't had anybody where it was a good one yet. I want someone to be like, my favorite number is it, and I'll be like, yeah, woo, you got the prize. But mostly it's like, oh shit, I didn't want to hear that.
So Jesse, this is a little off topic, but I got to ask you something. Do you like that stuff?
Nutella?
Yeah.
I enjoy Nutella. Okay, my family's kind of obsessed with Nutella.
Really?
Why are we getting paid to advertise for them now? That's
no,
great.
But I was thinking if you could come up with something on the spot, maybe they would notice us.
Okay. Nutella. What a fella. I don't know. I think you really put me on the spot here. You're just jumping Nutella at me.
No, I mean more like
I can't do this. I'm in the middle of an interview, Michael. In a few minutes, I'm going to interrupt him. I'm going to be like, Nutella's the best.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Remember you
coming out of me. Remember what you said about Nutella? I've got an idea now. I need to relax, though, first. Okay. So you've been talking about energy, and specifically you've been talking about that you've really been able to to connect with a visual interpreting of energy. And what is some of the best advice? And you don't have to go be brief, because we still got some time, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about this, and this isn't something that me and Michael are super privy to, so we would just love to hear any advice you have about really opening ourselves up to be able to receive the visuals, the extra light, that is all around us. What should we do?
Well, I think the very first step of this has nothing to do with seeing, but has to do with your own personal energy. And one of the first kind of little assignments I give to students I have is to gather becoming aware of the energy in your body, and then like drawing that energy into your solar plexus and condensing it and condensing it and condensing it until you get it into this really hard ball. And you just keep brightening yourself up until you can't get it any farther. And then once you can start getting energy to that, and the next step in that is to then be able to move that around to specific parts in your body. Like take all that energy from your solar plexus and move that to your left hand. And it's so funny when I see people do it and they get it. You can see them kind of like there's a weight to it. You can actually feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get that amount of energy happening, the aura that's around you is way brighter. And you energize it and you activate it and you make it easier for you to see. Like I taught myself to see, like looking at myself in the mirror in a dark room or a really dim room. And the first thing you see is this kind of inch and a half. Go ahead. Sorry, I keep going.
Oh, well, I just want to ask two questions. So what's the significance of the solar plexus, and what you're saying is, to get better results from your energy work, always bring your energy in as tight
well as that your solar plexus is one of your brightest chakras.
Okay.
And that's also a really intense energy interface, and the main place from which you project out if you're doing some projective kind of scenario. And that's the center, that's the core of your body. Power always comes from the center. It doesn't come from the edges, it comes from the center. So since that's the core and the center of your light being and your physical being and your energy interface in your chakras, that's a really good place to start.
And then
I don't know if
bringing in your energy is like to sort of get a hold of it, is sort of to try to pull it in so you can get a better feel for it.
Well, first part of it is being aware of the natural energy that's already happening in the confines of your physical body.
Mhm.
You can draw more energy into that and get a good batch before you start that. But it's becoming aware of the energy that's actually flowing.
Right.
And energy flows. It comes in and goes out through us. If you're right-handed like I am, there are always exceptions, but most of the time, energy filters in through your left, cycles down through your left, comes up, still filters around and projects out through your right hand. That's opposite if you're left-handed naturally.
What happens if you write with both, like Da Vinci?
Well, there you go. Then you can project or draw from either hand.
Yeah, sometimes I can get into a meditative state where I can hear that like hum of the energy, like in just feel the energy in my body, and
yeah. Well, everybody has different sensitivity to it,
Right.
and my whole way of understanding the world is visual.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I take a concept that I'll read or somebody discusses with me, but it's not really until I make a piece of art about it that it kind of crystallizes and goes from knowledge to grokking and fullness.
Right. Awesome.
So
and your artwork is amazing.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
That's right.
So you were saying that a dimly lit room is a good way to start.
Well, when I was in grade school, I'd look at the teacher after lunch and recess and kind of drowsy. And they're up there wiping off the board, so it's now a blackboard again. And in that kind of sleepy state, I would always notice this weird little glow around them that I just thought was because I had my eyes squinted and it was doing that. But that's actually the first band in your aura, which is made up of many bands. So I knew I knew that was there already, and I just started looking at myself and relaxing and finding that space in my vision. You know, if you don't want to squint your eyes so things become blurry, but if you can squint enough just to take the super sharp edge off, and it just takes on a little more shape, it's easier to see that starting to bloom. And then once that starts to bloom and it gets brighter and brighter, then you start noticing the colors, you know, that happen out in your second band, which is your emotional band. Your first band really relates, all of your bands relate elementally. You know, your first band is your earth, your second band is your water, your third band is your mental and factoid kind of things, and the fourth band is an energy interface between the universe and you. So that's your fire, the fire band.
Wow, Brian,
And
you're doing such high level work, my
This
friend.
guy's amazing, right?
I've never heard about it. I've never heard it spoken about so eloquently, and
Yeah.
it just shows. You know, like I said, I have a feel for these things, but as you're saying them, it's so defining and illuminating so many things for me by framing them a little bit more clearly.
Mhm.
You know, as
Yeah.
somebody who's been seeing kind of invisibly, you know, I'm sure that what you're saying, you know, for those paying attention who are interested in this, really helpful and really great to hear. Is there
well,
anything else that's good?
those techniques really work. But I would say to everyone, you know, like moving an object, the the first exercise in that is taking this metal rod, which for me was an old antenna off of a boombox, and laying that on top of a rounded piece of glass and balancing it, and then taking my energy and moving the rod.
Mhm.
So I was out, you know, it's really better to work like in the 12 to 3 area when everybody's asleep,
Mhm.
because we live in an energetic ocean all the time. And
Mhm.
when everybody's awake and everybody's this, man,
Mhm.
rush hour's the worst, you know, and all that's being projected into the ether, you know, it creates ripples on the ocean. And
Mhm.
when you're just beginning and you're trying to find the groove in that little tiny segment that we're at work, you know, the smoother the water is, the easier it is for me anyway.
This is all
Um,
brilliant, wonderful information. I hope everybody listening appreciates, because I
so,
appreciate.
so it took me 3 weeks of going out every night, a couple, 2, 3 hours until I was just exhausted. So after 3 weeks, you know, that would sound discouraging, except I came up with a really good way to con myself. And I thought about that effect being like an amazing jewel on the other side of some bulletproof glass. And every time I went and tried, it was like I pounded on the glass, and then I started making a crack, and finally it like broke open. And the night that it actually happened for me, I knew I was putting enough energy into it, but that damn thing would not move. And I'm just staring at it, and it was really hot, like Florida, like humid night weather. And I'm like, oh man, what are you doing? What are you doing here? So I did this one thing, blasted it up. It should have been moving, and this little bird lands on the fence and goes beep, 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 which was just enough to break my attention from the rod and look over at the bird. And in that second, I realized that I'd released the energy, and the thing moved a quarter of a turn. And I swear to God, I've never screamed out loud or jumped as high ever in my entire life.
It's so
You
great.
know, once you make that first little break, then it's like it gets really
I did the
addicting
thing.
really
I did the
quickly.
thing. I did the thing. I did the.
Yeah.
This is.
Well, you've just done something that the entire world for your entire life told you was impossible to do.
Mhm.
You know, and that changes your worldview in
Totally.
such a substantial way.
Yeah.
You
And you
know
can
that
never go back, once you kind
you
of
never go
experience.
back. You really
Yeah.
don't, because you know now.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not something you've heard about. It's not something that other people
Right.
do. You actually realize that with your own energy, that's possible,
Right.
and that's a life changing moment in so many ways.
I can't wait to spend some more time with you, Brian. You're freaking awesome.
Yeah, Brian, I want to chat with you about a bunch of things. So let's pick brain a little bit more. So when you are doing these, like a case in point, that one, I don't know, it looked like a perfume bottle or something like that,
Yes.
and
Oh,
it
you
had.
want
So
to?
was that? Yeah. Do you want to? Can you pull that?
Yeah,
Like,
I'll bring some up.
so what's going on here? Like, and when you're in your comic book, you've got like the dolls that you're doing light stuff off of, or
Right.
you're using them as sort of models, and then bouncing the light off of them so you can get
Yes.
the effects.
Exactly.
So, so how is something like this created? Is this literally like you're
Oh, let me go
projecting?
to one of the other ones. Yeah, let me go to the other
It's
one.
a dark room. It's a dark. Well, it's outside in my garden, and it's pitch black. I get the shot set up, and for this particular one, I'm a real fan of
I love these.
a black fiber optics brush and a flashlight, which looks like this. And as you can see, there are little pieces of light on that. So this is so much like a paintbrush to me. And
Hold that up
depending on
again. Yeah, let's see it. I just want to. Yeah, cool. Oh, I got to get some of those. Those are so cool.
and depending on how you hold the brush, you can put it like that, and you've got a flashlight. You can spread it out and round. You can make all kinds of things happen. You can make textures, and then if you drag things over it, it just gives this wonderful painterly. That's how I would like to oil paint.
How do you capture that though?
I've got a camera on a tripod with an open shutter, and it takes significant practice, just like anything else. Finding the right exposure to shutter to f-stop ratio and all of that stuff. But it's really been amazingly worth it to me.
It's so interesting, and for me, I mean, this is something I want to talk to you about afterwards. But I really believe that the future of art and everything is this kind of stuff, is mixed art, is bringing things to the next level. The next generation, they're going to want to know everything, as I did and as you did. I did this project called Blacklight District, which is music and comics combined together, and me and Michael are always just like sort of bubbling to see what we could figure out how to combine, and because it's so cool. And for a while it kind of took a lot of money, and now it's become easier than ever for people to do these things on their own inexpensively if they have a passion. And
that's true.
We've been ready to do a magazine that'll be an artist's magazine for young people, to teach them all the various ways they can apply themselves, all the different things that they should learn, and the best advice from people who freaking know and care, of how to do it. And I really want to get you involved, because I see you come from such a similar place of combining the art forms and really wanting to make it a little easier and cooler for the next generation to learn and grow, so that we can see. It's like when I see something like this, I'm like I'm sure you feel the same way, of like, well, I just hope that anything that I put out can just be part of helping what the art form is, in whatever level, to grow and continue to be thought of as something more interesting. I'm a big fan of comic books, as that's an understatement, but as a medium,
yeah,
as a medium
they're
to
great.
tell stories. There's no budget necessary. You can do whatever you want. You just have to think about it. And there's so much. There's so many ways to be an artist, and there's so many art forms and disciplines to learn right now for free online, on YouTube, wherever else. And it's just lovely and so inspiring to see somebody who is at that cool cutting edge, mixing together a whole bunch of things that everybody has played with on some level, but who's doing this?
Right.
And this is just so fun and cool and interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
We are. My whole life I've been all these different people. I'm the creative director. I'm a director. I'm an artist. I'm a metaphysician. It's like, but they were all kind of separate. And just recently, and last 4 or 5 months, I feel like all of those came to, I'm unified now for the first time in my life.
God.
And I'm ancient, man. So it's like the comic book was a perfect extension for me because it's the photographer, it's the magic guy, it's the creative director, it's telling a story and doing storyboards as a director. You know, it's like taking every single thing I know. I hand lettered fonts, you know, so it's like every single thing I know how to do. Here's this amazing vehicle that's full of exploration still. Like I could never find the end of it, you know. There's always going to be a new level to go and build off of, and you know, it'll remain infinitely interesting for a long time. Plus these stories, while they're really beautiful, every single one of them, I've got 12 volumes designed. I'm hopefully to complete one a month, and then each one of these stories has some really kind of cool you know, lessons and thought-provoking things, and the presenting of possibilities you might have not considered before in a really non-lecturing, non-confrontational, non-like anything except, here, take a look and see if it resonates with you, you know. So it's been a really wonderful, wonderful ride and experience. And I've gotten to use all this stuff. Like, these are all photo props. I did catalog stuff and social media stuff for this toy company that makes all these toys. So they've just been sitting around the house and out in the garden getting dirty, which made them even cooler. The mannequin that I shoot, you know, I found on a garbage heap that somebody was throwing away down the street. I'm like, wow. So I'm the recycle king on all the stuff, and all of my light painting tools, with the exception of the black fiber optics things, are all things I've hand painted and handmade, and you know, so they kind of take.
I gotta ask you one more question, because I, like, as an artist, as a craft appreciator, what like can you just tell us a difference between like the first light painting that you did and now the last light painting that you did?
Oh, I wish I had that at easy access. It was absolutely awful. I saw that I had seen Eric Perret and Jan Parveni and a bunch of other people about 10 years ago. I got really excited about it, and as life does, it sort of sent me off somewhere else. And then I came across that file, and I'm like, wow, that's really, I remember that. I really want to get into that. And then I saw a video that Jason Reinhardt, who's part of Light Painting Brushes, did. And it was this spiral out on an empty road up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And I went out and he made it look so easy, and it was so beautiful and perfect. And I went and went to a friend's studio, and we did a couple of them. I'm moving all over, and it's all shaky. And my friend Brandon was the guy that with me, and we both looked at each other and just laughed and said, man, this is going to take a little practice. And yeah. But so it was just, you know, it was overlit. And then
can you tell me, like, what? Yeah, okay, overlit. Like overlit.
What
were some of the troubles, like working
poorly
with the light?
drawn, like not knowing how to point it. You know, like pointing it directly at the camera.
It takes a lot of work.
Big.
Yeah, it takes a lot.
Yeah, it's a dance. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a really choreographed dance, and it also is almost like a ballet with seeing moving waves around too. It's cool.
The way you do it, it is.
Not the first ones.
Not the first one. So it's interesting that that whole thing that you told, I was just trying to get in. You guys are great. How you were saying everything is connected and how you were bringing all these things together. I have your website here, and really what I liked was I just loved the energy of the work when I saw it. And I initially saw you posting some stuff in some groups, photo groups that we're in, but getting to know you in the last week or whatever it might be, 2 weeks, and looking at your website. This is your I guess your business website. Yeah,
my commercial website. Yeah.
So all of these props came from this job that you had.
That's exactly. Job. Well, I've done work for them for years, so I have I got one of the giant chickens that's 3 feet tall and squawks for a minute. Oh,
so you really did truly bring everything together. You really, you know, I mean, this was your work.
It really. That's a good. Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to play this. This is so abstract and freaky. I love it. Oh, that one was not playing. Let's play this one.
I did the music for this too.
Jesse. Shake your head.
My family was invited on a game show, maybe I won't name, and we need a team name. I think the Head Shakers is it.
Yeah.
So and then we've got Poo Sumo Centaur.
Oh, isn't that just heinous? I love it.
Why wasn't this one featured in the comic book?
Yeah, right? Oh, I can't even believe I did that.
Why didn't they call it Heinous Anus?
It would have been much better. I'll suggest that next time I see them.
Or the WWE could have branded them as Rikishi.
Oh my God, that's
the ass mask.
Phenomenal.
Well, you're talking about the way things come around. Like these guys have agreed. I did a presentation to them last week, and they really dug it. And they're like all on for doing a creepy baby toy collection. And so it's like I got this merchandising thing happening already, and.
Yeah, very cool. In the designer toy world, it's very kind of cool what you're doing. I think you could make a little name for yourself doing some boutique bits of some of the cooler moments of projection on the babies if you could recreate them, because they really are very beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah. So now we're getting towards the end of our program this evening. But what do we want to chat about here to bring us home while we have this man here? What else can we pull forth from his noggin?
Oh, very scary, boys and girls.
I want more information. God damn it. So
you can have as much as you want.
I've always been really interested in the runes, and you said that you got into rune reading being the D. I know very little other than just playing with a set here there, and reading a little booklet or whatever. But how do you feel about the experience of reading the runes, and what is that like compared to like a tarot or an angel card or something like that?
Well, it was a really great way to start because the meanings are a little more straightforward and simplistic. I started with a guy named Ralph Blum. And he was sort of responsible for bringing those back into public eye. And, they're just, and my heritage is German and half Native American. So, connecting to those ancient Germanic roots was really, really seemed to have heart for me.
Yeah.
So it was a great way to begin those initial things of how to connect, how to get out of the way. You said that, being good at that, like you were talking about at the beginning of getting out of the way, is not an easy task to achieve. That takes lots and lots of practice.
Yeah, no, I learned it. And, it's funny, when anybody's coming to a card reader, it's usually because they can't get out of their own way, so they can't see the thing, because they're biased. And sometimes actually when people come to you, you'll realize that, oh, you're a little biased. And like, you really have to cleanse your energy to not allow bias to creep in.
That's exactly right. You always want to come from as neutral a space as possible with that. The other thing that I think is really critical to understand about tarot is that, we do live in an energy ocean that's full of flows and currents and ever-changing conditions, just like the jet stream is changing weather all the time. And a really good tarot reading is not really a proclamation of something that's absolutely going to happen. It's more like an astral weather forecast and a reading of what the energies and the flows are at this specific moment, knowing that if any of those conditions along the way change, that outcome could be completely different, and that you have control in that. You can let it alone if it's really great and like, oh, that's exactly what I want. You don't do anything to change that. If you see some problem areas, there's a conflict with somebody, or this is coming up, or you know any number of things, you go, wow, I can address some information or some energy towards that, and shift that, and then shifting that, you shift the outcome. So it's more like a weather forecast than a sentence.
The oh man, I just lost my follow-up question. Sorry,
Sorry.
I looked down at my notebook and I got distracted. The screen changed. You're messing with ADHD, man. You ruined it all, Michael.
It's your fault, man.
Actually, you know what? I'm a little bit interested in this. Angela's been trying to get in, and maybe, just maybe, since we all are in tune with energy, we might have something interesting happening. But Angela is saying that she sees an older man's energy behind you, Brian.
There's probably several.
So I wanted to get her acknowledgement.
The one she's seeing right now is my dad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so cool. I wanted to share this earlier, but I wanted to get as much from you as possible. So now is a good time to talk for a second. My real initiation, I kind of credit it for a while to beginning by I was straight edge my whole life. I never touched drugs. I didn't drink alcohol. And when I started smoking weed, I realized that I had anxiety, and I started to have a system to manage it. And then when I took psilocybin the first time, oh my goodness, it blew my doors off. I mean, and
I love mushrooms.
Yeah, I realized that I was depressed, and I had been depressed for a long time, and it really just sort of awoke my inner shaman, who had done this many times, on a soul level. And I just kind of went like, wow, there's a lot more at play here, and I really need to kind of change my limited mindset, because I think I'm closing out a big portion of the world. And when I really started to open up after that, though, I looked back, and it came to a head with an aura reading. I was in Sedona, and I was working on a song with a good friend of mine, Michael Latazzi, who I'm actually working on an album with right now, or just in the beginnings of. And Michael's a wonderful dude. He was living out in Sedona with his wife Kathy, and they had some friends of theirs over, and the grandmother saw me and reacted to my aura and was sort of just like, whoa, like, you got to let my daughter read your aura. And and I was an atheist, very agnostic. I was saying agnostic at that time because I didn't like to insult people. I was like, I don't know. But I didn't believe in any of that stuff, but I was a nice person, and I said, oh yeah, sure, your daughter can read my aura. But I go down there, and this lady reads my aura, and I'm just sort of like blown away, because everything she says is on the money for that moment. And like, if it was 3 months earlier, she would have been wrong. If it was 3 months later, she would have been wrong. It was like that moment in time. She read that moment, and I was like, whoa. And then she takes a picture with the Curlian photography, hands me everything she described in the picture, and then hands me a book that she obviously had not written in the past 15 minutes since she had given me the thing that corresponds with everything she said about what it meant. And at the time, because I was an atheist, I just kind of like wrote it off as, well, I guess hot people have hot temperatures and cold people have cold temperatures, some nonsense, nothing that made sense. I'm like, I couldn't explain it. So I like left going, I don't know. And years later, now I'm on this spiritual journey, and and I'm kind of crediting psilocybin, for really opening up my doors. But I end up working on this project, Blacklight District, which I really want to send you the stuff. I think you'd appreciate what we've been trying to do there. Michael actually helped me with the last video that we did. With
what? I have that queued up. We should play that to close.
Oh yeah,
the show.
cool. We'll play it to close the show. And I'm working on this mixed project, and one of the songs, the whole inspiration for the album was one of my favorite things about comic books is that because of the no budget thing, the stakes are allowed to be the end of the world so much. So you really get to the heart of it. It's the end of this individual's world. It's the end of this group of people, or it's the end of the whole planet. real high stakes, and I like that for the emotional, meaning for it. I want the strongest metaphor I can get out of anything. So the
Right.
superheroes, it just raises it to the high degree, and the comics medium in general. So while I'm working on this, and I'm using all of these different things like The Walking Dead and Captain America as inspiration, one of our inspirations is the Hulk, and we got this song called Green, which I am talking about how the Hulk, he's looking around at all these superheroes, and they all seem like they've got inner peace, and he doesn't, and he's just sort of like, desperate to find his peace, but he can't have it. And I realize after I've done a freaking comic book, after I've begun working on the comic book, that this song, it's not about the Hulk. It's about me. It's about my depression. It's about when my aura was green in Sedona. It was all green. And I was at the height of my depression. And I'm like, that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. Oh, wow. What a terrible thing to learn now. Like, I'm like, oh, like I didn't even realize I was depressed at that time. I didn't know. And now, like, I wrote a whole song about depression called Green. And I look back and I'm like, oh, crap. I pull out the picture and my aura is just dark and kind of a little yellow green, not
yellow green. I was just gonna say, man,
like and the whole
not good. Not good. Not good
at all. And my aura is big, so it's the big green and yellow green. It was yucky. Like having a spiritual perspective on it. Like years later, I look at this thing and I'm like, oh, good. I've been doing so much good work. Thank God. Get it out of here.
But, that's great.
Anyway, I did want to share that story, the aura reading, just because I really do believe it just adds validity to everything Brian is saying. So many of the people at home know, have know to trust my experiences, that I'm, really speak from a genuine place, and are learning to trust Michael's as well. And, I just want to add credence to every time I've gotten my aura read, it's blown my mind. And now I do it more consciously, going, all right, blow my mind. I call up Jamie, who was the first one to read it, and she's out in Sedona. She owns a spiritual shop out there, and oh my goodness, she's incredible. She goes around to the corporate events and dealing with skeptics all the time, walking up to her like, and she's like, they walk away like I did. I stand corrected. What's in that camera?
You know what I realized?
Yeah.
I realized that originally we had kind of intended to bring Brian on to talk about his creepy baby taxi.
Yeah, that's okay. This was great.
But
it's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
then let's say right now. Let me just do this.
Okay.
Creepy baby taxi from Brian from Brian Lahr. You are gonna love this beautiful comic book that is fun and has great spirit, and you will spend hours and hours staring into the abyss that is Brian's beautiful, gorgeous, sacredly geometric artworks. And Brian, can you get the tarot decks? Can we buy the tarot decks from you now?
You can, yes, and you
man,
can get
if
that.
you guys want to play with tarot decks, these are such a good place to start.
We got a couple of people said they were going to get them.
They're so informational. I'm going to get a set for myself. I want both of them. They're just so lovely, and it's really a good rock star takes reaches deep inside their soul and pulls out a little piece and leaves it for us to find. And a good light worker, a good spiritual teacher, reaches inside their wisdom and leaves it out for us to find easily and for us to gain wisdom from it. And man, your decks are so informative, and I feel so blessed that they're out there and people are getting them in their hands and are being able to pick up this stuff easier, because it isn't rocket science. It really has to be tackled from a way that demystifies it and helps
that's
you to
right
understand. And that's what your deck does. And I cannot promote Brian well enough. I will do your commercials for free.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So there, a proper amount of talk about the greatness that is your work. And I mean, really, look at this man. Look at what he knows. Look at how hard he has worked to study and understand these esoteric things that are just incomprehensible for most people. And he's running into it and finding masters and humbling himself to, to the level that you have to really, bask in wisdom and learn. And thank you, Brian, for bringing all of this great wisdom to us this evening and chatting with our listeners and our people and everybody who will get to watch this in the future as it exists online. And just really from the bottom of our heart, thank you so much for coming on. This feels so kismet. We got to talk about you last week and say how much we would love to talk to you, and then here you are. So thank you so much. And I guess this will be the beginning of this happening for us as the magic happens. But stick around because I want to chat with you. And I just want to thank all of our patrons who are dropping into the virtual tip jar for me and Michael, for our future endeavors, working on names and titles now for me and James McDaniels, Coast to Coast. And I think Coolest Alive is going to be coming back with an additional Coolest Man. Aaron Sparrow going to be joining me and Tori Ireland Mel. And we've got some cool bit of fun programming for you guys. The intent that me and Michael, or the place that me and Michael got to at the end of last year, I think, was that we wanted to try to find some way to make this fun and not be toiling where everyone else is, which is just sort of like the energetic muck. I don't want anybody to come out of our show feeling dirty and yucky. I just want everybody to be able to come here and get a burst of bright, Care Bearer light in their face. And for me, there's so many places where I like to go for my light and my laughs and my joy. And I have a lot of friends who bring a lot of love and joy and passion to these things. And it's time to get us all together and shed beautiful light on everything. So
absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Maureen hopes you come back.
Oh yeah,
I'd
we'd love to have you back in the future.
I feel so blessed that I got to connect to both of you. I mean, it's rare you find one kindred soul, a couple. It's like, wow,
so awesome.
Bonus feature.
We'll definitely have you on in the future because really, as I get to know you a little bit more and understand some of the things that you've studied and stuff, I'll come on and I'll have a bunch of questions for you about different things so that I can learn some things and we can enlighten our audience.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
So Brian, hang tight. Hold on.
All right.
We'll close out the show with Bizarro, Jess.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. So this is the last. We had done some animated videos where we animated the comic book that we made. All major creators and then some indie creators, but just working really high level who were interpreting the music. And this one was thumbnailed by my buddy Chris Burnham and drawn by my great friend David Witt. And this is Bizarro. The concept, is inspired by the Bizarro Superman, and the tagline of Mighty Mouse, which was up, up, and away. We went with down, down, and back. And Michael Zinn was able to connect the dots for us like a year or so after we had wrapped the animation of the first 5 videos, and we never finished it. And when everything started kind of going upside down in the world, we decided to make a little video for this thing. So if you guys will enjoy it, I hope you do.
All right.
And join us next week, everyone.
Yes.
Right? We're off after this. That's right.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll come back, but I'll stop the broadcast.
Yeah, we're going to come back, but we're off for the broadcast after this. So enjoy, everybody. Have
down,
a great
down and back, down and back, down and back, down and back, back, down and 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 back.